Can a Filipino invest in the global markets? The answer, absolutely, you can. But the million-dollar question that all Filipinos are asking is, how do I do it? Where do I start? Where do I invest? What are the steps? And so in this video, I'm going to share with you the different options that we've tried ourselves and show you the steps that we took to begin investing in the global markets. And so if you're a Filipino and you want to expose yourself to investments abroad, then this is the video that you absolutely need to watch. And hopefully, this will help you to start your financial independence journey. So let's dive into the slides. So, a few disclaimers before I start. I'm not going to pretend that these are the best options for you. These are just our personal experiences. So, please take the time to gauge if this path that we took fits you the best as well. So, do your own research. And this video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing in this video should be considered financial advice, investment recommendations, or solicitation. For those of you who are landing on the first time, for the first time in this channel, my name is Patrick Mabilog. My friends call me Kiko. I'm an investor and an entrepreneur, got married and then got into debt, but eventually built an 8-figure business from scratch and built an investment portfolio that has now put us in track to coast financial independence, to coast retire by next year. And so this time last year, May, as I'm recording and posting this video, we moved our investments to the global markets. And this was a big surprise to us because here in the Philippines, we're never thought that it's possible to invest globally. No one ever talks about finance in the Philippines, and it's even considered a taboo. And all the more, as I continue to talk about our investments and investments in general, I find that a lot of people have these burning questions. And one of the burning questions is, are local investments my only option? And I've found over the years that it's not. And so for those of you who are landing on this video, you're probably asking, how do I start investing in the global market? I made this channel because I want to talk about investments more and answer all of those burning questions. So let me be the one to tell you this if you're skeptical. Global investing is highly accessible for Filipinos, but there are the right channels. And so there are actually a lot of channels. I haven't tried all of them, but I have tried 3, which I want to kind of like talk about and walk through to kind of like help you understand how these channels work and see if it's the best option for you. No, there are brokerage platforms, and a lot of people probably look at that. What are the platforms? But that's not the only way to invest, and it's not always the best option for you as well. But before all of that, just a quick plug in if it's okay with you. Skip this if you don't want to. For those of you who are landing into this channel, before you even start investing, one thing I always talk about is you need to really understand what financial independence is first before you invest. And this is one of the first things that you need to gauge. And so your financial independence number, specifically, it's the amount that you need to say you now have so that you can feel like you have enough to become work optional. So you can retire anytime, you can switch jobs without having to worry about where bread will come from. So I actually have a free guide available for download if you want to jumpstart that journey. And it's in the description below if you want to get it. So back to the topic. There are 3 ways that we've tried so far when it comes to global investing. And I'm going to share our experience, personal experience with those 3 options. Again, these aren't the only ways. There are definitely many, many more ways. But these are the ones that we've tried ourselves. So before I dive into these 3 options, banks, online brokers, advisory firms, let me explain to you a very important principle first, or a very important concept in investing. There's something called a feeder fund. No, a feeder fund is an investment vehicle that pulls money from smaller investors and then channels it into a large central investment vehicle. And that larger investment vehicle is known as the master fund. So this structure, what it does is it allows retail investors, so banks, financial services institutions, insurance companies, to access exclusive global markets, private equity, or hedge funds, these different investment opportunities outside of the Philippines that typically will require a massive minimum investment. So a feeder fund, generally, they are a smaller cut of the pie to a bigger master fund. But because it is something that goes through a middleman, there are generally fees involved, and they're higher usually than direct investments or standard index funds because they act as, like I said, a middleman. Then they pull your money to invest into a larger master fund. So in our experience, we have tried 2 investments that were in some way or another parang feeder funds na rin siya. So the first one was through banks, no? You can actually talk to your local bank to see if they provide access to mutual funds or feeder funds. And in our own experience, it was a bit frustrating kasi usually when you talk to a bank, yung in-offer sa'yo agad is loan, or utang, they don't really offer investments right away. However, if you do start talking to the right service representatives, normally yung mga kakausapin mo dapat are those na a bit more veteran. Again, that's just our personal observation. We find that the newer service professionals parang hindi pa talaga ganun ka exposed sa mga ganitong, because it's not common. Again, like I said, it's not a common topic in the Philippines, so we don't talk about it. So like for us, for example, we talked to two of our banks, BPI Wealth and Security Bank, and yung BPI Wealth was actually the best option for us. So we did it through BPI Wealth. So what we did essentially is we asked for access to feeder funds that would allow us to go into global equities. So this was our first trial into global investing, just to try and dip our fingers in. Yung initial investment namin was, I think, around just 20K, just to get a feel of it first, because we wanted to experience it ourselves. And there's a very important point to make here. When you're investing, normally, I find that in my personal experience and my coaching clients as well, that it's not just, the problem isn't just access to capital. Sometimes it's also our emotional resolve. Kasi medyo, alam mo yan, when you invest in global funds, it's a bit riskier, it's a bit more volatile. You don't really have as much knowledge about it. And sometimes you just have to trust, certain financial professionals that they know what they're doing. And it's hard, right? I mean, and so what you want to do first is you want to practice. You want to, kind of calm down your heart when the markets goes sideways or goes down. And like when we started investing in global markets, for example, the global market went down a couple of times. So yung first was when the tariff announcements in the US started. And so when Trump said we're going to put tariffs here, there, tariff dito, like everyone's going to get the tariff, like markets drop, right? And then when that happened again, when the war broke out in the Middle East, and so prices rose, the market went down, and during this time, thankfully, medyo may practice na kami ng konti, so we were able to kind of like not pay attention to the drops and just let it be, and eventually the markets recovered. So that's the first option that you have. The second one, if you don't want to go through the banks, or if you kind of want to DIY it, do it yourself, then there are also online brokers. And maraming online brokers, a lot of people have asked me, okay ba yung GoTrade? Personally, I haven't tried GoTrade myself, so I'm not gonna really dive down into that. But the two online brokers that I have tried personally, I'm not saying that they're the best, but ito lang yung dalawang na try ko na. So, but personally for me, I tried Call Financial because I wanted to go for an option that was SEC registered, and it was acknowledged by our government. So I went for Call Financial, and we actually opened that account back in 2018. We started with local market investments. We still have that, but eventually we started accessing the global equity feeder funds that are available through the mutual funds of Call Financial. You can access mutual funds through that section of the site. I'm not going to go through that anymore. Maybe a separate video. But there's also an option to go for Gcash, because through G stocks and G funds, you can also access global funds as well. So personally, for us, we've tried yung Atram fund. So we did the tech, one of the tech funds, which went into Apple, Google, Facebook, and then there was another fund, hindi to S&P 500. It's like a smaller chunk, yung mas focus talaga yung categories. And then we also tried one that was more consumer retail, so Amazon, Target, mga ganon. So we actually tried just putting 5,000 pesos in. I forgot about it completely, and I remembered it after like 2 years pa na, pumasok pa tayo ng pera dito. And when I checked it, I think it went up to like 12,000 pesos, and I was it was a pleasant surprise. So pull that out, and then we put it into another fund. And normally these options are online brokers. There are like others like interactive brokers, like I said, GoTrade, eToro. Those are all fine, but if you saw what happened to interactive brokers, where they were kind of like blocked by the Philippines, there is that risk, right, of like going for a broker na hindi pala acknowledged by the SEC, or like we just don't know for sure. I mean, we also invested in like cryptocurrency before, and then we used Binance, and all of a sudden Binance was not allowed. So thankfully we were able to pull out in time. But those kinds of risks are like what you kind of like have to deal with online brokers. It's more of access. Are they credible? And so I don't have all of the research on all of them. I just know for a fact that Call Financial, GCash, because they are well-known financial services in the Philippines, and they are, in fact, they have the right licenses. They have, hindi ko alam kung license or accreditation. Basta alam ko, SEC knows about them, and they're allowed to provide investment. So I go for those options personally for me, because what's important to me is that it's done right. Right. So I'm not too comfortable putting big wealth, however, in online brokers. Kasi yung grade din ng risk, no? Like number one, cybersecurity risk. You can get hacked. There's a platform risk because, like I said, platform banning. There are also the issues and glitches with the platform, and then the access risk. So the one that we did, however, kind of like thrive in personally for us was going through an advisory firm. So this is the option that I want to kind of like zero in on, because it's one that not many finfluencers talk about. There are a lot of other Filipino influencers in the finance space that talk about the other brokers, like the platform brokers. And again, if that's for you, then I encourage you to check out other videos. Research, right? But like I want to dive into this because there's not a lot of top like information yet about this. And I talked to my personal wealth manager to make sure that I'm going to present this in the right way, so that it's allowed. So I'm going to be as careful as I can. I can promise that I won't make mistakes. Hopefully I will be forgiven. If not, I'm more than willing to do this video again. But this is also our personal option and our personal opinion, because for us it's the safest option, because here you're working with licensed professionals. If lulukohin ka nila, you can report them to the financial board. So like for us, for example, we went for Singapore, and so if our managers, our professionals don't go by the book, we can report them to their advisory firm and to the monetary authority of Singapore to strip them of their license. So sinabi ko naman yun sa wealth manager. Pag di na mo kami, you're gonna hear from the board. But aside from that, however, we personally chose also our firm of choice, which is SG Alliance, because we kind of like had this like really good experience. And so three things that jumped out for me: they asked the right questions. They did not suggest na, oh, ito yung investment para sa'yo, like just invest in this, invest in that. They asked us questions first. They understood first what our goal was, what our context was, how we currently make money, how much liquid cash we currently have, our other investments, because we also have property and other investments as well. And then they built the strategy around that. Hindi sila yung parang nagbigay lang, oh, ito gawin mo, without understanding our context first. The second one is we have a wealth manager who is a Filipino. So he knows our context. He knows how we make decisions in terms of like family values. Moreover, we have a Filipino wealth manager who's like, bro, kailangan mo intindihin muna yung aspect na to. And like he's also honest with us when he says, I don't have the answers yet, but let's figure it out. And then the third one is they also actively help with investment decisions. So the very big difference here is that with brokerage platforms or like the banks, the feeder funds, it's kind of do it yourself. So you have to choose the fund yourself. You have to kind of like do your own research. You have to kind of watch the markets yourself. Versus if you have a wealth manager where it's done with you. So our wealth manager or our financial professional, he does all of the research. He knows what funds work, and he kind of just like advises. He doesn't move. We don't give our money to him. So it's still kami pa rin yung nakaka-access ng pera. But he has like visibility in terms of like how our investments are doing, how other investments are doing. So he will actively go and say, bro, kailangan dito tayo pumasok next. Wag muna dito kasi the market is kind of going down, sideways. So that's what you're paying for. So a lot of people are also asking me in the comment sections na may fee ba? Obviously may fee because this guy is a professional. I mean, you pay a plumber to fix your plumbing and di mo naman sinasabi na, uy, dapat libre yan kasi uh, toilet ko yan, di ba? Kasi that's always what people say, pera ko yan eh, but sila kukuha ng fee? Because that's, that's you're paying for their expertise, right? You're not just paying for access, you're paying for the way that they think. Now, of course, I'm not saying that all of your money will go up all the time, but in our personal experience, we've been quite happy with the returns. They have been way, way, way better for us personally compared to our previous investments in the past. And so another question that we get asked a lot. So ano yung steps if you want to work with an advisory firm? And so this is our personal experience. This is kind of what we went through. There's a chance that it might be different for you because, like I said, it's there are like different contexts all the time, and so we'll kind of go through those as well as we go through the steps. The first one is discovery call muna. So like our wealth manager. So when we engaged him, so we kind of just connected on Facebook, and parang nag-uusap lang kami. He actually also inquired ng services namin sa company because he was looking for a marketing agency to help him with his educational content. And when we were working on the discovery call as well on our side, I got curious as well about how does this work? Like your service, is this allowed in the Philippines? And he said, "Pwede." Like it's definitely something. But the first step, however, it was a discovery call. And in the discovery call, your wealth manager or your finance professional learns more about you and sees if there's a fit. So they don't always engage you right away. For example, they have to check muna if kaya ng investments mo. Because like for our personal wealth manager, for example, he has a minimum investment engagement of 1 million pesos because he's quite in demand. He has hundreds of clients and he can give really good returns. So far, that's our experience as well. And you also have to check muna if you're ready because a wealth manager, a good one anyways, will ask questions first. Like I said, with our experience with the advisory firm, they will check muna if you're financially fit, if you have the right insurance coverage, if you have like enough emergency funds to fall on, if in the very case that you kind of like experience some fluctuations in your revenue, they understand where your money comes from. You're a business owner, if you're an employee. And so with the discovery call, that's kind of like what happens first is kind of get to know muna. The second step is there's now going to be a deep dive where if there is like a potential fit, there's going to be a separate second meeting or sometimes pinagsama din, as far as I know. Kasi sabi ng wealth manager namin, minsan pag ready lang naman talaga, go dive into ano. So but the deep dive, they go through the details of your finances with the wealth manager, and they keep it all confidential, by the way. So things like how much liquid cash you have, what are your other investments, are you fully insured, do you have dependents, what are your retirement expenses going to look like, ano ba yung goal mo, 'di ba? What age do you want to retire? What big expenses are you still looking at? Do you want to buy a house? Do you still have college to think about for your kids? You want to immigrate, and so on. So that's a deep dive. And here, essentially, what the finance professional is starting to do is understand where you are financially and kind of like formulate already a plan of attack. And that's where the third step comes in, where they start to propose a solution. Dito pa lang papasok yung solution proposal, which is again another meeting. So marami siyang meetings actually. It's not just kind of like, oh, sige, let's get on a Zoom call. O bili ka ng ganitong investment or put money here, put money there. So they want to understand more. They really want to do their due diligence, at least the good ones, as far as I know. Because to my knowledge, I've talked to like other people who have engaged other wealth managers. Not all the wealth managers do that. So I want to make this very clear. When you are engaging a wealth manager, make sure that you're getting a wealth manager that does the due diligence, that understands your needs first, that understands where you stand before they even start to make a proposal for the solutions. So going back to the steps, here the licensed professionals may present different approaches depending on your goals and situation. So here you don't want to just look at the product. ask what the strategy behind the investment. And there are like different strategies pala. Hindi lang siya yung parang dollar cost averaging, pasok tayo ng pera dito, let's wait for growth. There's so many other ways that these professionals will help you grow your money. Like I started to learn about the core and satellite strategy, which is like a bit more advanced in terms of like investing strategies. But when I saw that, it's like mind blown. This is how the rich become richer. And so these executive wealth professionals, you get access to that. You're paying for their knowledge. So our wealth manager also even gave us, a structured tax strategy, which is again, it's still in the works for our investments. And our business also, which, I know a lot of people have asked me to discuss fully, but this is something that also at the same time I'm still kind of like maneuver which parts I want to share and which ones I don't want to share. And that's my prerogative at the end of the day. It's my business. I might show in the future, might not. Let's see. But here, you're gonna get a solution, and if you like the solution, then you can proceed. If not, then you can go back and say, I'm not sure about this. They'll adjust the solution, or probably even say that, well, if the solution doesn't work for you, maybe I can refer you to a different wealth advisor. But you want to find someone who will provide you not just access to platforms. If you go for this case, anyways, financial advisory firms, but you want to find someone with a plan of action, kind of like a consultant who has a direction that you're comfortable with. And then the next one is you go through the documentation and legal, which is the boring part. So I won't spend so much time on this. Honestly, my wife took care of most of it anyways. So I was like, sure. I just asked my wife, okay, what did you do? What were the documents? But like here, your wealth manager will begin to gather identity documents. Then you sign the documents. You provide proof of funds to the advisory firm, and then see if you get it's kind of like applying for a loan as well. So they have to check first kung talagang so even the firm themselves, not just the individual advisors, will kind of gauge as well if you're ready to invest or not. Well, at least that was our experience. And then the last one is the financial compliance, which was kind of like the headache part. But I get it, because if you're investing in a country like Singapore, one of the beauties is because they do have an impeccable bang tawag? They have a you know almost spotless desire to have full integrity when it comes to finances and legal. Medyo maraming steps, no? So financial compliance, they're very strict with anti-money laundering, for example. And so they check your background, make sure na walang, bayad ng corruption or anything like that, which is good. Again, I appreciate it because I mean, like you always want to get an investment firm, and you want to invest in a country where morals and integrity is important, which is why I don't like investing in the Philippines. Topic for a completely different day, but you know what I mean. But this was the part where it kind of broke my heart a bit because when I was going through the process, the compliance officer said something along the lines of, "Oh, Filipino able to invest in Singapore." So like I was like, so ganito ba yung tingin sa atin ng ibang bansa na hindi natin kaya? And there was just this fire built up in me all of a sudden, which is why I started this channel, because we're kind of seen as a country that's financially incapable, and I want to change that for us, right? I mean, I'm just one YouTuber with a few thousand subscribers. I'm not saying I'm going to change everything, but to the best of my ability, kind of like work with the people in this space that are really good, and kind of like show that what the Philippines can achieve if we kind of aspire towards a better financial future for us, and hopefully financial future for us as Filipinos collectively. And so, yeah, just kind of like quick share lang about my personal conviction, what happened after that experience. So the last step is making the investment. And so you are given two options. Either you go for a fly-in option or a no fly-in option. We chose the fly-in option because why not? Good excuse to travel. So tinay naman namin. So we went on we did have like a family trip in mind. So kind of put it together, and we brought a good friend of ours along with us. But there are no fly-in options as well. Although mas konti yung options mo pag no fly-in, mas malaki yung yung parang option pool mo if you go for a fly-in option. But we flew in also because we wanted to, you know, check out the office ourselves, kind of make sure that, you know, these guys are legit. Met our executive wealth manager Rico, and then we did the final contract signing, and then we transferred our investments. And so we made an initial investment muna, hindi namin transfer lahat bigla on that trip, but we put in like a certain percentage of it just to kind of get it started. And then after that we continued to send investments from home. So uh konting share lang din also there. So it was kind of hard for us to kind of figure out how to send money from the Philippines to Singapore because banks charge like crazy fees for that, and it's so it's so uncommon for Filipinos to be sending money abroad that the process is super duper long. It normally takes us an hour to transfer money from the Philippines abroad if we went for a wire transfer. And so we found Wise, which is a service where you can transfer money from your local bank to an international bank. And so from spending about 5 to 7,000 pesos in fees just to transfer money, we were losing so much money making the transfer, which nabawi naman through the Greek gains, yes. But again, you want to cut the costs. No, we transferred to Wise. They were known as TransferWise before, and so when we used Wise, we started to get like fees na parang mga 200 150 pesos na lang. So such a big amount in savings, and it really helped us to stretch our investments all the more. And so if you want to check out Wise, by the way, I have a affiliate. This is my first attempt at an affiliate link. So be kind with me, guys. If you don't want it, that's completely fine. But you do get a discount on the fee if you use my affiliate link. So if you want to try Wise yourself to transfer money for not just investments, but like transfer money for other reasons, then you can check out the link in the description below. So, couple of final closing thoughts, right? Like I want to really reiterate this once again. Very, very carefully over communicate this, that there are so many ways to invest abroad. And you can try other platforms, you can try the brokerages, you can try other financial firms. SG Alliance isn't the only firm that takes international clients. You just go on Google and search, um, executive wealth manager in Singapore, or I don't know other countries if they allow, but like I know for a fact that Singapore will take Filipino clients. So if you do that search, even like if you like for us, for example, if you want to look for a advisor who or a manager who is Filipino, so that they understand your context, just search Filipino wealth manager in Singapore. I'm sure you'll find someone. So if you're an OFW, if you're someone in the motherland in the Philippines, that's the option for you. But however, I do want to kind of like give a couple of my 2 cents. Number one is you want to keep an open mind. Don't shut down ideas right away, because I see that all the time where people are, ay, scam yan, wag yan. No, and I understand, of course, because a lot of people do have bad experiences with platforms, with people who seem legit but aren't. And so I've heard all the horror stories. I've been working in the financial education space for quite some time, even before starting this channel, because I work with a financial education company. And I heard the stories of OFWs losing millions, 10 million. I think like the highest amount that someone ever told me that they lost to a scam was 20 million pesos. So imagine that. Decades of hard work gone because of one decision. So yes, you want to keep an open mind, but you also want to be as cunning as a fox and do your own research, do your own due diligence. Before we even started talking to our wealth manager, we took months. Parang months siya namin na parang, okay, he kept on messaging me, help me with my socials. I was like, I don't know you. Uh, I, we knew him for months before we even said we're interested. No, so like if it takes that long for you, take all the sweet time that you can and ask the right people the right question. So we kind of asked. So like I found out that we have some common acquaintances. So I asked them, or I talked to other people who I know invested abroad. So like I have friends who are OFWs in Singapore, and I asked them those questions. Like, is it true that these investment firms can take clients who are Filipino? And they said, yes, of course, that I have investments there. And so go and ask the questions. Do your own research. Walang masama when it comes to like the, asking the like wag mahiyang magtanong pag may right med ba nito. No, but like I love that line. I say it all the time because there is no there's nothing wrong with asking questions as long as it's the right questions. And then lastly is listen to others people's best practices, but then also do your own research and kind of like gauge if this is really for you. So once again, this is just our personal experience. I'm not saying that you have to go this route. I'm just trying to expose you as you're watching this video to what we've tried so far. The last thing I want to do is create a YouTube channel na parang nag-Google lang ako, nag-chat GPT lang ako, and then I'll just throw it your way. I want to show you the options that we've tried ourselves because um, it's our personal experience. I mean, I'm why else would I create content about financial education if it's not something that I can go and fully back and say this is I know this works because it worked for us, right? But again, I'm always very careful and I say it doesn't mean that it worked for us that could work for you. So you have to understand who am I as a person, what is my risk appetite, how comfortable am I when it comes to trusting other people to make financial decisions for me. So all of those considerations and more should really be kept in mind. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I have my email address somewhere in my YouTube about section if you want to reach out with questions. I'll try my best to answer. I mean, this is not something that I do, full time. I've got my own businesses to run as well and so on and so forth. I'm just sharing my own personal experiences so that I hopefully that more Filipinos will begin to get on the same financial independence journey like us or even better, right? So thank you once again and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.